Video into us right now out of St. Martin. Look at this right now. The extremely damaging winds already and the heavy rainfall. Obvious damage done already as this major hurricane, Category 5 Irma, sweeps through, rakes through parts of the Caribbean.
I mean,
Wow.
It's even mingled mess like a fence and a car. I mean, it's hard to even tell what all that debris is. Scary stuff, of course. That made a landfall earlier this morning, now approaching the Virgin Islands. But we also want to take you to St. Croix. A live look out at the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, St. Croix luckily going to miss the worst of the storm as it misses to the north. St. Thomas and St. John not as lucky. But again, we're going to send it over to Carl Parker with more on Irma.
Yeah, the storm is now coming into the easternmost part of the British Virgin Islands, into Virgin Gorda right now. That eye wall with winds of 150 plus miles per hour is now beginning to approach that island. This is the visible satellite picture, and you can see how the storm has been very well defined there. Really well defined eye moving away from Anguilla and St. Martin and St. Bart's, where we were just devastated by the storm earlier this morning. And now it is approaching the easternmost part of the British Virgin Islands, and again Virgin Gorda, which is that island right there, and coming towards St. John and also Charlotte Amalie later today, more towards the middle of the day today. This is the radar picture here, and there you see that eye wall. This is the very most dangerous part of the storm, and again that's just about ready to come into Virgin Gorda in the British Virgin Islands. And so the worst of the storm is now approaching. We are seeing some velocity data in here. Last I checked, 161. Let's see if we can get anything a little higher than that. Looking right in there, velocities of 164. Now that is a loft. That's up at about 11,000 feet, but a lot of that energy, that velocity, can be brought down in downdrafts in the hurricane eye wall. So this is what is now coming into the easternmost part of the British Virgin Islands, into Virgin Gorda in particular, and will overspread the British Virgin Islands as well as the U.S. Virgin Islands on the north side, St. John and Charlotte Amalie, over the next few hours here. So what we're expecting in those northernmost Virgin Islands, not as much in St. Croix, but in the northern islands, is winds gusting to 150 plus. Tremendous wind impact and a storm surge up to 11 feet in those islands as well. Now let's talk a little bit about San Juan, and what the modeling has been showing for a long time is the storm lifting up. The storm has been moving towards the west-northwest, and so obviously if you can continue a trajectory towards the west-northwest, that could bring the eye wall just to the north of Puerto Rico, but it's going to be a really close call. And one thing that's a little disconcerting is this wobble that we saw earlier today. You notice as the storm moved away from Anguilla earlier today, sitting right about in there, little bit of a wobble to the south, and now it has resumed for the most part that west-northwesterly track, but that could make a difference in terms of how close it gets to San Juan. Here's one of our model forecasts, and certainly the northeastern part of Puerto Rico is going to be the most likely to get the strongest winds, and in general the northern part of Puerto Rico is going to see the strongest winds, along with that tremendous onshore flow there, wave action of 30 plus feet just offshore, and then that strong part of the storm, that core of the storm, is going to move right into the Turks and Caicos into late tomorrow. So what we're thinking in San Juan is that 75 plus mile per hour wind, hurricane force wind, is likely there, but keep in mind that it could be a lot stronger than that if we do see a little more of a wobble to the south and that southern part of the eye wall gets into northern Puerto Rico. Chris, over to you.
All right, thanks, Carl. It's time for your Claritin pollen report, and we're going to get a look at where we have the highest counts of weed pollen